On today's episode, we have Mr. Jodey Arrington. Although his years in the spotlight of politics has not been many, Mr. Arrington has been in public service for the better part of 20 years. Graduating from Texas Tech in 1994, Mr. Arrington was hired to work with then-Governor George W. Bush from 1996 to 2001. He went through various federal jobs, which included working in the office of the Federal Coordinator of Gulf Coast Rebuilding after the devastating effects of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which left many U.S. citizens displaced. After a while, Mr. Arrington took a job as a Vice Chancellor for Research from 2011 to 2012 at Tech, and under his leadership, he launched the Systems for First Technology Startup program and established its first National Science Foundation Center. Here recently, Mr. Arrington took on former Lubbock Mayor Glenn Robertson in a runoff election, beating him with 54% of the votes to Robertson's 46%. He will go on to face Green Party candidate Mark Lawson and Libertarian candidate Tony Bonner in the general election in November. We welcome you to our program. This is our second episode of the Daily Toreador's news web series, In Depth. This episode is Asking Arrington. Today we are filming in the McKenzie Market Alumni Center. Mr. Arrington, we thank you for being here. So the first thing I want to go over is after you graduated from Texas Tech, you took a few years and you went to go work with then-Governor George W. Bush.
Yes.
I'm extremely interested in hearing what your role was in his administration from governor and president.
So when I got out of graduate school here at Tech, went to undergrad and grad school here at Tech, and of course grew up out here, I actually had to do an internship to complete my master's, and so my first stint there in the governor's office for George W. Bush was as an intern, and got to know folks and tried to work hard and make a good impression, and I think we were able to do that, so they hired me full time. My job was to advise then Governor Bush on appointments to state boards and commissions. So we don't have a cabinet style of executive government in Texas like a lot of states and like our country. So instead of having cabinet heads over healthcare and criminal justice, etc., the governor appoints people, volunteer citizens, to governing boards, and those governing boards then hire the executives. An example of that in higher education is the Higher Ed Coordinating Board and the Texas Tech Board of Regents. I had a portfolio that included education issues, criminal justice, the Texas Criminal Justice Board, healthcare, rural issues, ag issues, and I would meet with him once a week. It was a great experience for a kid that just graduated from Tech in political science and public administration. And I met every week with him and advised him on the types of people and specific people to appoint. And I did that for 4 years for him as governor.
What is one of the biggest things that you think Congress needs to focus on when it comes to higher education?
Okay. I think two things, primarily. And I want to say from the outset, I am a proponent, and I will be a strong proponent for higher education. And I was in the campaign. And during our forum or debate on campus, I don't know if you covered that, but I was very openly supportive of Texas Tech and higher ed. Here's why. Higher education, just Texas Tech system represents $10 billion in economic impact to the state. Higher education is one of the most exciting, hopeful, and productive investments a state and a country can make in education. Now, I think public education ought to be left to the states and the local school districts. I don't think the federal government ought to be out of that. But on higher ed, I think there are a couple things that we can do. So I believe it strengthens our communities. I think it creates jobs for our state and our country. I'm talking about it produces, it equips people for greater jobs, better jobs, higher paid jobs. And I think it makes us more globally competitive.
Mr. Arrington, we do thank you so much for coming on. It's a real
You
pleasure.
bet, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.